Hello, everyone. Welcome to Foreman Community Demo. I'm Ori. I'll be your host for the next about 5 months. We'll talk about why in a minute for those of you who missed last demo. Just a reminder that YouTube defaults to video quality that is not great for this demo, so please check your video quality on YouTube so you can enjoy seeing us a lot better than the default. Questions, we're on Freenode at the Foreman, Twitter, the Foreman Project, and YouTube, we have the live chat. So, Greg, do you want to explain why there's a switch?
Yeah, I can do that. Thank you, Ori. Great intro. So yeah, as Ori mentioned, she's going to be looking after you for the next few months. I am taking a short break. I am not leaving. I am just going off to do some family stuff for a bit. So I'm taking a bit of a sabbatical. I'll be around. I'll be in the community to some extent, still answering emails and things, but I won't be doing the 9 to 5 bit. So expect slightly slower response times. And if you've got any community questions, you can talk to Ori instead. I will reply eventually, but you might get a quicker answer if you go to Ori. But yeah, that's all there is to it, really. I'll be back at the start of May, and then we'll take stock of the situation and see what's going to happen there. But for now, you're in good hands.
And on IRC, I'm Robin, if anyone needs me. So we have a pretty busy demo today. We have some updates, new sponsors, infra. We have some UI updates, updating Foreman with foreman-maintain, and a lot more. 1.16 is continuing to have some bad luck. We are working on our release candidate 3. It will be out soon. There are some dependency issues, but it looks like some progress was done today. So hopefully you'll get that very soon.
I think you want me to take this bit, don't you? So talking a little bit about sponsorship and infrastructure. So one of the things I've been working on quite strongly in the last few months is updating our infrastructure, diversifying a little bit, fixing some of the issues with it. I'll talk a bit more about one piece of that later, but more generally, we have a new Jenkins slave from NetWays, so thank you to those guys. They're being awesome as always. And I have just signed the contract for a CDN. So we're getting a sponsored CDN from Fastly. That's going to be put in front of our web node, which according to the Rackspace billing, we do 6 terabytes of data bandwidth a month through that node, which is pretty impressive. And obviously the majority of that is things like the Yum and Deb repos, the downloads host, particularly for the discovery images, things like that. So we're going to put a CDN in front of that, which should hopefully reduce our bill substantially. And that will allow us to use that sponsored budget for other things, so more Jenkins slaves and so on. I also want to do some metrics within the Rackspace infrastructure as well. So more of that sort of coming down the pipe. We are improving things. There should be some slaves coming from the open source university soon as well. I haven't had final confirmation on that yet, but there'll be a significant number of nodes coming there as well. That's me.
Okay, we also had Catello 3.5 RC2 released. So that was on November 9th, if I remember correctly. So go and test that out. Config Management Camp 2018. We already have the call for papers is done, and we don't have the list yet of what will be selected, but there are already tickets available, and the tickets here, they run out pretty fast. So if anyone is planning on going, I suggest to go and get your tickets right now. And with that, let's start with Justin about HTTP proxies.
All right, sharing my screen. Okay, so there's been across Foreman and Catello, have been needs for HTTP proxies to be in use for various connections, compute resource, Docker, and Catello for syncing repos. And there have been various methods of setting those via environmental variables or installer options. So the goal that I started out with was to try to make it a bit more configurable through the application. And so as part of this work, we've got a new item under infrastructure, which is HTTP proxies here. You can define a proxy, giving it the URL, such as the port, username and password, and then you can easily test the connection. And it's defaulted to aws.amazon.com, but you could change that to something else, google.com. You see here, if I pin something that it can't talk to, or actually I'll use an incorrect port, we get an error because the proxy is not on that port. And currently the only thing that you can actually use these for is for EC2 compute resources. So I've got an EC2 compute resource right here. Oh, let me edit that. And I've blocked out connections to EC2. So you see it's trying to connect to something else because it's not going through my proxy, and I'm not allowing that connection. But if I then now associate it to my HTTP proxy, it can connect. And so it'll use this for all EC2 connections through this compute resource. And hopefully in the future, we will add more support for this in the Docker plugin and Cotillo plugin and in more compute resources. And that is all.
Thanks, Justin. Now we'll have Shira talking about some changes she did in the UI and also a new validation for OpenSCAP.
Hi everyone, so I have some minor things to show you for today. The first thing is that in the SCAP content, I added a validation for the uniqueness of the title. So if you want to upload a new SCAP content, it cannot be the same name that already exists. So if I choose that one, you can see the validation rule, that the name is already been taken and I need to choose a different name. And now it should work. It's taking some time. So this is the first thing. The second thing is about some UI changes in Puppet classes. So if I choose a Puppet class, I can see that I have the smart class parameters. And here, if I have parameter which is override, then I added the label that shows that this parameter is overridden. Another smart thing I did is in the smart variables and the smart cluster parameters that if the name of the parameter, then I will have a label that showing the full and that's it for me.
Thanks, Shira.
Thank you.
We'll now have Chris talking about a DNS check added to the installer.
All right, so let me pull up my screen here. So I've got the implemented DNS checks both in Foreman and Cotillo, so that way we prevent issues down the road for customers. And they can still be skipped, so in case you do not run DNS or you have DNS issues and you need to install it, you can still skip them. But I'll go ahead and give an example of that. So this box is...
Chris, I don't see your screen.
Hold on.
Yeah, I only see a black screen as well.
Is it showing now? Is it showing now, guys?
Not yet.
Oh, it's gone again. I'm not quite sure. Hang on, I can see a mouse cursor.
Hold on,
But
let me...
the actual text is gone.
Give me a minute then. Let me reconnect the screen share because it was working before the meeting.
I saw it very briefly, and then it went again.
Can you see it now?
Nope.
Okay. All right, let me just
share the desktop.
Yeah,
share
let
the
me just share
desktop.
the desktop. Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Yep. Seeing now.
Okay. So let me just bring it. Can you see it now?
No, you see, it keeps going away again. I think something in your focus is interfering with it. Just try sharing the desktop.
Yeah. All right.
It looks like when it loses focus for you, it comes back for us because I can either see the text or your mouse cursor.
You see it now? Or no?
Yeah, that's fine. But make it
Okay.
bigger.
Like that?
Yeah, looks pretty good. Maybe bump the font up a bit if it's easy to do.
All right. All right.
That's great.
Okay. So again, so we have the host name, and if I do host dot, well, so I'll just run it. It basically, the host name originally is a host name given out by our DHCP server. So I'm going to run the installer. So basically, it's going out and looking, and this one is the host name is DHCP blah 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 rdu.redhat.com. So it can't meet that. And then the other DNS check that we added is, let me open up this guy, make him bigger. So here's his IP address and host name, and we'll do the same thing. And as you can see, it's not going to, the reverse DNS is also checked. And again, if you need to actually skip that, let me get rid of that so it doesn't have that much verbose output. But you can actually do a --, and it will skip it. It'll start the installer. As you can see, it's going now. So that's all I had. So yeah, like I said, you can basically, it'll check for forward, reverse, and IP. And if you need to, you can skip it as well. And that's all I had.
Thanks, Chris. Sorry, I forgot to leave time for questions. So if anyone has questions now for Justin, Shira, or Chris.
I do have one for you, Justin, actually. How easy is it to extend that? We often get people asking about proxies for compute resources.
Yeah, now that the infrastructure is there, it's very easy to add to another compute resource. It's just basically exposing the field and the UI for that resource, because right now it's only limited to EC2, and then changing the network connections to use that connection or that proxy, which that was the smallest piece of doing it, was actually modifying the EC2 connection code. It was 99% of it was everything else.
Yeah, sure. No, it makes sense. But I figured that would be the answer, but I know it comes up quite a bit. Usually the question is, why doesn't this go through the smart proxy? Obviously, we've just never done it. So this would be one solution for people is to route it that way. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Thanks.
Okay, I don't see any other unanswered questions on the channel for now. So let's move to Swapna with some updates about foreman-maintain.
Sure. Thanks, Ori. So let me just pull my screen. All right. So yeah, so this is a foreman-maintain upgrade demo. So we'll be actually upgrading foreman 1.15 to 1.16 release candidate 2 using foreman-maintain. So this is a pre-recorded demo, and like I believe I'm doing a voiceover. So I'm just quickly SSHing to the virtual machine. So I've spun up this machine using forklift. Yep, and let's just also check the versions, foreman versions that we currently have here. All right, so it should be 1.15 here. Yeah. By the way, I'm using the GitHub version of foreman-maintain. So like the feature is still in progress, work in progress. So. Right, so yeah, as you can see, the foreman versions are 1.15, and Yep, and this loaded the relevant packages of like foreman proxy and all the other packages. They are still on 1.15, so we will be upgrading them to 1.16. But let's also just quickly check whether the our web part is up and it's working. All right. Yep, it's there. Let me quickly log in and just see whether everything is working fine. It looks good. All right. So yeah, without further delay, let's quickly see foreman-maintenance in action. All right. So this is the main command, and these are the subcommands that we have: help, upgrade, and advance. So for this demo, we'll be focusing on the upgrade command only. Maybe in some different demo, I'll explain the rest of the commands. Yep. So let's just quickly run foreman-maintenance upgrade and run. So run command will actually perform the upgrade. So if you want to have a no-op option, like you don't want to upgrade, just check what all things it will do, you can use the check option. All right. So yeah, I need to specify the target version here. So let's say the target version is 1.16. So this will actually, it will detect the current version and it will suggest you the possible target versions you can upgrade your instance to. So yeah, as you can see, the run has already started, and as a pre-upgrade procedure or pre-migration procedure, you turn on the maintenance mode. And yeah, basically maintenance mode will not allow any HTTP or HTTPS requests to your server, and yeah, foreman-maintain will have its time for upgrade. Let's also see like what actually maintenance mode is under the hood. So it's actually it works on IP tables. So we have created a new chain, custom chain, and basically, like as you can see, foreman-maintain is the custom chain, and it's restricting the all the HTTPS requests basically. So that's how the maintenance mode is. As you can see, I mean, at parallelly the repositories were getting set up, and it will ask for whether to download it or not. So we'll say yes for now. Yeah, this is basically some, I mean, pretty time-consuming process. So I've just skipped this, and we should have the next step after the download, which is like installing and the cleanup part. So yeah, so I'll be just skipping this part. All right, so as you can see, the cleanup is currently in progress. And yeah, this should be also done in a Swish. And yep, so it's verifying the download. So this is like we are almost to the end of the upgrade. Yeah, and all the packages have been updated now. Now the post installer, you can say post migration procedures are getting run, which involves running the foreman installer command, and yeah, so it will actually perform all the post migrations and all the steps. Meanwhile, yeah, let's see whether the maintenance mode is in action or not. Yeah, it looks like it's still in action and the site cannot be reached, which is good. Still our still the foreman-maintain is performing the upgrade. So yeah, that's good. So wait till we see, and this should be done in no time. All right, let's see. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, all the post migration steps are run, and it also involves turning off the maintenance mode. So yeah, so like maintenance mode, the one which we enforced when during pre-migration. So we remove the basically the checks, sorry, the custom IP tables chain, and yep. So we are back online. Let's just quickly browse through and check what's the current version of the foreman. So yeah, as you can see, Smart Proxy updated to 1.16, and yeah, so yeah, there's a 1.16 release candidate 2, and foreman also upgraded to version 1.16 release candidate 2. Let's also just quickly check through the CLI using the RPM and query the foreman packages. So as you can see, yeah, we have successfully upgraded from 1.15 to 1.16. All right, and let's also check its relevant packages, whether they have upgraded or not. Yeah, they are also upgraded. So foreman, there it is, foreman proxy. Yeah, so we have successfully upgraded. foreman instance using foreman-maintenance. So this is actually the standalone foreman instance that I've upgraded. Upgrading of Ketelo is still in progress. So I'll just quickly show you the rest of the commands that are available. I mean, foreman-maintenance does way more than that, just upgrading. So it will actually keep your foreman or Ketelo instance healthy. So yeah, these are the other commands. So health is one of the commands. So health check will actually run the check to see whether anything is whether everything is right or not, and it will rectify and fix them. So since foreman standalone instance doesn't have that healthy pretty number of checks right now, Ketelo is instance we have like some number of checks. So these are the actual list of the checks, and default the checks which are marked as default are run during the health check command. If you want to run other checks which are like, for example, pre-upgrade checks, you can specify a tags option, and you can pass on the particular tag, and it will run all the checks for that tag. Also, advanced is another command that we have. So this is kind of advanced mode of running foreman maintain, and it will, if you want to run some specific procedure, for example, you want to delete all the foreman tasks which are in particular state, let's say stopped or paused, so you can use advanced mode of foreman maintain. So yeah, that's as of now from foreman maintain. Thank you.
Thanks, Swapnil. Okay, this looks like it's going to make everyone's life a lot easier. I don't see any questions on the channel. Is there any questions from here? Okay. Then Lukasz actually couldn't join us today, so Greg is going to show a pre-recorded kind of the start of his piece. So he actually has a full 18 minutes. Well, okay, Greg, to you.
Thank you, Ori. Yeah, so Lukasz wanted to be here, but unfortunately couldn't make the time slot. So he has sent us a video on some proposals he's making around telemetry. As Ori says, it's an 18-minute video, which is a little bit long for the demo. We tend to restrict demo components to 10 minutes. So I'm going to show you the first part to whet your appetite. And then if you want to go watch the rest of it, please do. We'll put the link in the show notes, and we will continue the discussion on Foreman Dev. So let me switch to that. Hopefully you're seeing the video here.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug my headphones and play the speakers straight back into the microphone, and hope like hell it doesn't cause feedback. So if there's any issues with the video, just jump in and let me know. So okay, here we go, I guess.
Hello, this is Lukasz, and this short video I would like to go through my proposal to add instrumentation to Foreman. So the context here is really to add instrumentation support to allow scraping of internal data from our Rails application, and in the future other components. So this is all about monitoring. So by monitoring, I don't mean alerting. If you have ever worked with Nagios and black box monitoring of kind of a system is down or up, that's not where I aim for. The same goes for tracing, and that's usually a term that showed up in the last couple of years, and that has something to do with columns logging or logging into a central place. Things like Kibana and stuff like that, where you have a multiple components. Although we do have some effort and design document about that, my goal is really, integrating with some kind of a monitoring solution, the typical monitoring solution that shows you a CPU, graphs and amount of memory, and also data from inside of applications. So for that, you need obviously an instrumentation library, kind of, and some kind of a protocol that integrates with your monitoring solution. So the goal of my proposal is not to find a monitoring solution to integrate with. My goal is to find an instrumentation API or protocol or layer or whatever, call it we want, but that will integrate with as many as monitoring solutions as possible, right? So first of all, some terms, I want to be able to scrape some data about our system, about Rails, about requests and stuff like that. For that, we need some kind of measurements, also known as metrics. And for the last couple of months, I was reading and studying a lot of monitoring solutions. Myself having some background in Nagios and Nagios and CollectD, I learned a lot about others, and it looks like the most, if not all, monitoring solutions support counters, gauge, and durations in some degree. So counter is just a monotonely increasing or decreasing. Some of the monitoring solutions also supports decreasing, but usually increasing is the only usually supported, and that is counter. You can also then make statistics or aggregate that into a count by second, by minute, or by hour. Typical usage: bytes read, request processed, and created instances, stuff like that. Now, and that's usually a float or integer, depending on monitoring framework you use. Gauge is usually arbitrary float number that represents some kind of a measurement that is, a gauge like CPU temperature, number of tasks in queue. So these are typical measurements. And duration is usually, obviously a duration. There's nothing to explain there. Time spent in a database or request. The last one is usually problematic. So counter is easy. Like you have a counter, you aggregate those count numbers, and you have a total, and that's is being sampled, right? For gauge, it's as easy, the most easier way, because that's just a sample. You sample a gauge, CPU temperature. So once per minute or once per second, you sample that. Now duration is problematic, because if you sample, you can have an let's say web application that does hundreds of requests per minute. You can't really sample that. That would be super naive approach. That would give you total irrelevant numbers. So the naive approach would be to calculate sum and counts, and that would give you an average, a number. But average is mean. Average lies to you, because it doesn't give you good overview of what is going on. Typically, you have some very fast or very extreme measurements, things like 1 or 2 requests where 5 minutes long, and then your average is totally wrong. So there's the optimal solution to that, and that is very slow, is to calculate, to store all the measurements of duration in an array or something, and then you can calculate minimum, maximum, medians, or percentiles, which are very good if you are dealing with SLAs. You can define 99th percentile, and you're getting very relatively good numbers. But that's too slow. I mean, you need to have stored all the values, and then every sample you need to calculate those things. So there is a reasonable approach using histograms. So histogram is nothing complicated. It's just basically a configurable bins or buckets that you can configure. Let's say for duration it would be, let's say 1 millisecond, 15 milliseconds, 200 milliseconds, and 1 second. And you're able to, in the worst case, you're able to calculate a sum and count. So you would have average numbers for this individual bins, and then this way you can have a good overview of what's going on, and you can easily filter out the extremes.
Okay, so I'm gonna pause that there, because then Lukasz goes on to talk about instances and tags for about another 7 minutes or so, which takes us well past our time frame. If that's interesting to you, if you want to get in on that debate, please do. The link will be added to the show notes and to the email, the summary email that goes out, so you can find it there, or you can just hit up Lukasz's YouTube page and go have a watch. And your thoughts are, of course, always welcome. Before we go any further, there is a question in the live chat, which I'll just field on Ori's behalf since I'm already speaking. Someone was asking where we're at with the pulp and deb support. My understanding, and Justin's in the chat, so he can help me if I get it wrong, but my understanding is that the deb support to pulp is now merged. and will be in the next version if it's not out already. And the Catello side is under review at the moment. I got that right, Justin?
Kind of. Pulp support is, or Debian support is in Pulp, and that was in 2.14. However, it did not include all the features that were needed for us. So that is going to be in 2.15, which my understanding will be out towards the end of the month, or at least the beta will. And we also will be able to pull the beta into the Catello nightlights at that time. A review on the pull request is underway, and it looks very good so far. So we're just continuing with that.
Super, thanks. Hope that answers your question. Back to Ori for the next presenter, I think.
Thanks. So now we have Partha on Docker manifest list content type.
Yeah. Hello. So with Pulp 2.14, we have a new content type called the Docker manifest list. Basically, Docker introduced this idea of a manifest list to include a bunch of manifests. It's more for running Docker manifests across different platforms. Manifests used to run like x86. I think the containers used to be x86, 64 for a while, but now they want to support other platforms, containers that can run on other platforms. So they introduced this concept of Docker manifest list, and Pulp started supporting that in 2.14. So when we merged 2.14 into Catello, we added support for that, for the same. So it's just a new content type. It's not a new content type, it's a new unit type rather. Docker itself is a content type for us. So here's like an example. So I have this BusyBox upstream repo that I just synced a few minutes ago. You see this new entry, it says Docker manifest lists here. So I think the upstream BusyBox has it, and a bunch of others have started adding, a bunch of other repos have started adding these manifest lists. So for example, so let's see what kind of details are there in the manifest list. So it looks just like a manifest, and if you see, there's a digest, there are a bunch of tags, there's a schema version associated to it, just like a manifest. The difference is this manifest list will point to multiple manifests themselves. So let's see another example. So if I went to the Docker manifests page, I can here you see this this manifest is part of this manifest. So this manifest is part of this manifest list. There were other, so that's one of the key changes we added in there nightly at least to work with 2.14. So it has support for this. A bunch of other changes. You can go to the Docker tags page and look at its details, for example. So if I select a Docker tag, hold on. Yeah, let me select a tag which has a manifest list. That will make it easier. So let me select this page again. Sorry. And let's see if I do like latest maybe. Yeah, there you go. It's just information about the schema version and the manifest types. And we have also added support for that in this Docker tags page. Now you can search for list, or you can search for a repository, a schema version, and other things, and you should be able to see the manifest list available for this. Yeah, it's the same kind of pages. So that's pretty much all I had. A couple of UI changes. We have added, like, you can do this via Hammer also. You can query for Docker manifest lists via Hammer. If you ask for like a repository information, the Hammer UI is going to show you the Docker manifest list count. That is pretty much it.
Thanks, Partha. I don't see any questions right now. So moving on to Greg.
Thanks so much, Roy. And I've just realized I've left my microphone open for the last 5 minutes. So sorry if everyone's been hearing me typing. So yes, I want to talk about something fairly big today. This has been debated on the dev list for the last couple of weeks, and then now it's time to bring in the users community and talk about it. And what I want to talk about is, well, basically the future of how we run our community. The short version, if you want to listen to this, take 10 seconds and then leave. I want to close the mailing lists and move to a forum. That's the big bombshell headline. There are people who are probably now running away in terror. Hopefully not too many. I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes justifying that and telling you why I think it's important and why I think there are benefits to doing so. And then I'm going to tell you how you can be involved in that test pilot. And then I'm going to tell you about the fact that we're going to do a longer video next week. So let's start with what's really important here. This is a proposal. It is not guaranteed to happen. It has not been decided yet. It's very, very important that I make that clear. I don't want to be accused of being high-handed or doing things that people don't want or anything like that. What is important is that we have a proper discussion about it, and then we move forward with whatever decision the community takes as a whole. With that said, what I do have to say is that the discussion on the developer list has been going for about 2 weeks, and mostly it's pretty positive. Obviously, there are going to be people who have concerns or people who really don't like the idea. That's fine. Those are valid concerns. What's important is that we take a decision together and move on that. So I really want the users to be part of that discussion, because the users community, the users mailing list, is the larger part of the community in terms of volume and so on. Let me start with a graph. I got some data together. I actually produced this morning, so even the dev list hasn't seen this yet. This is the total quantity of traffic on our mailing list over the last 6 years, grouped by month. So it's number of posts per month over the last 6 years. And I mean, you've got something you expect. It starts off small and it grows. But what's interesting is that about 2 years ago, roughly, it started to descend again, and it has never really recovered. And this does concern me. I don't feel that that's an accurate I don't feel that we have particularly got a lower volume of questions or bugs being reported. So the idea that perhaps it's lower because we've got better code and people aren't asking as many questions doesn't seem to answer the whole story. I do think the community is shrinking, and I want to try and address that. And one thought that has been with me for a long time, and that I have had repeated back to me by other members of the community, is that there are a lot of people out there who don't like mailing lists. I am 37. I have been involved in open source for 20 years. I have no problem with mailing lists. But newer people coming out of the universities and development areas and studying things by themselves today don't necessarily expect to be involved with that. They want something else. And that's why one of the reasons I think we should move to a forum. Now, that's not going to be a silver bullet. There will be work to be done, and there is a lot to talk about. But it is going to help a lot. Why do I think it's important? Well, there's a lot you can get from a forum. I'm just going to go through it. I've got it on a separate slide here, so I'll leave that graph up because I think it makes a good impact. But I'm just going to talk about a few things that you get from using a forum. Things like being able to recognize contributors. It's a small thing, but we have no way of knowing who our regular contributors are on the mailing list. It's not very easy to get data out of Google Groups. The ability to recognize those people and to give them to feed back to them so that they feed back to us and to create a positive loop is very important. The ability to break down into sub-forums is almost impossible with a mailing list. If you create a new mailing list, very few people go and sign up for it. So the ability to break down around plugins, around events, around anything we can think of in terms of, do we need a new category for this? We can do that without necessarily splitting the community. The ability to help users find help, I think, is super important. Forums are usually very good at things like showing you duplicate posts or very similar posts, suggesting similar posts while you're writing your posts, helping you to mark solutions, things like this. Good search tools, good discoverability. I think that's super important as well. Smaller things that aren't exactly deal breakers, but that help as part of the package are little things like being able to upvote things, being able to do polls, being able to do mentions to pull people into the discussion. That's pretty good. One big thing that is lovely is the ability to have groups. So if you think, for example, you're making a change or you need help on a particular plugin, even I, as the community guy, don't necessarily always know who's involved in what. And so the ability to say, hey, packaging guys, or hey, Catello guys, could you help with this? And for those people to get a notification about that is very, very important as well. And then also re-engagement as well, I think, is huge. People tend to quite often post one question to mailing list and never come back. And that's a loss to us. If we can help to re-engage those people, things like digests, I think that's important as well. And most importantly, I think, given where we're coming from, you can use it like a mailing list. I say like a mailing list quite carefully because it is not a mailing list, but most of the functionality is there. You can email in, you get email back, you can reply to that email, it threads. It's kind of there. I mean, it's not going to be one-to-one mapping. Otherwise, why would you ever use anything else? But it's pretty close. So that's just a few of the reasons why I think a forum's a really good idea for us. I appreciate it's a very controversial proposal, and this is why I want people to get involved. I'm proposing that we go to Discourse. Here's what our test instance looks like. Discourse is fully open source, self-hosted, so that's a win. We're getting control of our data because at the moment, obviously, it's hosted on Google Groups. And while I don't really expect Google would shut down Google Groups with no warning, it's potentially possible. I have set this up a while ago. I have been importing the old mailing lists, so you can find the old mailing list here, announce, dev, and users. And so you can go and have a look to the archives. I'm actually using this to keep track of what's going on the mailing list right now because I import it once a day. These will be locked to most people, everyone who's not an admin, because I don't want people getting the idea that posting here goes back to the mailing list. So those will be locked, but they are viewable. We've created equivalent categories here, development and support, and also a couple of others, testing area, so that people can go and have a play around with the features, try some private messages, try some replies. We added a nice little thing to the support board where you can mark things as solved. So they get a little check here. Got a little solution flag there. This is quite useful, I think. There are groups, very few at the moment. I'm going to create some more for people to play with, but you can choose to be part of the group. So you can say, I want to be in the Catello team or the infrastructure team or the core developers team or whatever teams you can think of. And if you want a team created for some reason, for something, for a plugin side, I think it could be very interesting to have, a discovery team, a Docker team, Ansible team. That could be one thing to do. The other thing you can do, and right now everybody has the permissions to do, is tags. So when you create a new post, if I go, let's say I'm adding a new question, new topic. Now on the support thing, you actually get a template so that people can be helped to write a good bug report or a good question. I'm having an issue. This is what I expect to happen. That's only on the support category. If I go, let's say, to the development category, I'll cancel that. And I do a new topic here, then you don't get that. But you can do tags, so you can do something like this is a post about discovery, for example, and everyone can create new tags at the moment. We'll probably restrict that later, but that's a much, much later debate. For now, everyone can create them, so have a play around with that as well. So this is just a really quick overview of Discourse. I think it's got a ton of potential. It's very flexible. It's got so much we can do with it. So we need to have a debate about whether we like it, whether we want to move to it, and then we can talk about how we want to configure it and what it's capable of. We've had a question asking, what can it not do? I think the main problem that people are seeing with the sort of, let me show you how the mailing list mode works, actually. So it's a personal setting. So if you go into your own settings, let me cancel this post. That's the admin settings. You don't want to go there. If you go to your personal preferences and go to emails, you can see there's a mailing list mode here. And if you click that, you will get everything that's posted to anything, any of the categories, all of it. You can choose to exclude your own posts or include your own posts as well. So you get a literal complete thread of everything, including your own replies. That's up to you. The alternative is to not enable that and instead either add some categories to watch. So for example, you could put in support here if you're interested in the equivalent of foreman users, and that would get you everything in foreman users. Or, and this is something I'm planning to do, you could put foreman users here, and that will get you the first new post in each category, but not the follow-ups. So that'll give you an idea of what questions are being asked, one way to do it. And as you would expect, you can also be notified about tags as well. So for example, I might put in community or something, which doesn't really exist as a tag yet, but you get the idea. You could put whatever plugins you're working on or areas of the code base or community that you're interested in. In terms of what doesn't work well, the main problem seems to be about how replies are potentially threaded. Some people are reporting some issues with threading. I'm not seeing any at this point. Everything's threaded, so that should look okay, but I do want feedback on that. And there's a discussion about how it quotes replies as well. Some people are very fond of quoting the entire thread in their email, and Discourse won't let you do that. It's as simple as that. It reformats the replies before it sends them out. That said, you will get some context on your emails, and you will get some quoted reply unless you choose to disable it. So, for example, there's a setting here, include an excerpt of replies. So that'll get you a kind of in reply to at the bottom of your post, so you can see who was replying to who. And you can also choose some things here as well. I forget what this actually controls. Play around with it and let me know. To give you an idea of what it's like trying to follow complex threads, if I go to something like the testing area, we've got a really, really long thread, like 41 posts in here. And what's good to know is that if you really want to see where things went, you can actually expand the replies to a particular post. It's not ideal. It's not, it's not a tree structure like you would see in your inbox. But realistically, I did some analysis on foreman dev, and we only see maybe 5% or less of our posts to foreman dev are very highly branched. So it should be something we can adapt to. How do you get involved? I think I'm running out of time, so quickly I'm going to tell you how you get involved. So I'm going to log out. Hit the right thing. So you want to come to community.theforeman.org. You want to click login, and then you can put in your username here, and you can click forgot password. If you have ever sent an email to our mailing list, you already have an account. Importing the lists creates people to own the posts that were written in the past. So if you have ever emailed our mailing list, you already have an account. You can just use forget password. You can also obviously create a new account if you wish, and you can log in with GitHub as well. I will probably add other OAuths in the future, but right now I'm keeping that to GitHub to be consistent with what we do in Redmine. So I totally want you to play with this and tell me what you think. We need as many voices as possible. If you like it, tell me, make it happen. If you hate it, tell me, because I don't want to annoy half the community. And if you don't care, tell me that too, because if we increase our sample size and know that people don't mind, that's useful data. If I don't know that people don't mind, then we can make all sorts of assumptions about whether or not we're annoying people or not. Telling me you don't mind, it helps to add weight to both sides, essentially. So I want to hear it no matter what. A post will be going onto the Foreman users mailing list later today. With all of the details in briefer form, obviously, about why we're proposing this. We're not doing it yet, we're proposing it. And I will do an Ask Me Anything next week, probably Tuesday or Wednesday, where we'll take a longer video format and we can go over lots of features, and people can join in and ask me their questions, their concerns, whether they think it's a good idea, all that kind of good stuff. So for now, that's everything, I think. So yeah, it's a huge proposal. I hope you like it. Come and tell me what you think. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Greg. For now, I see some support on the live channel and IRC, and some discussions about what works and what doesn't work yet. There is a general question on our live chat about releasing updated intro videos reflecting current versions of Foreman and Catello. Greg, you might be able to answer that.
I can try and answer that, absolutely. Let me just open up the live chat and see the question for myself. I did actually close it. So let's have a look here. So let's see. So yeah, I've been meaning to do that for a very long time. We do have, so Justin and I were talking about doing it for Catello a little while ago, and I've been meaning to do formal ones for ages. There are, it's really just a question of getting around to it. I do think it's just time consuming, like setting it up, figuring it out, scripting it, testing that the script works, reverting all the VMs, doing the recording, doing the editing, and then posting it is bad enough. And then usually what you want is some kind of text version to go along with that, because you can't cut and paste commands out of a video. So writing up that text as well. So each episode takes time. and it's just something that we've never gotten around to. It's something I might look at when I get back from my break if no one beats me to it, because what's nice is that this is the first time I've had someone to really help me with the community stuff with Ori. And by the time I get back, she'll be very comfortable in all the things she's already dealing with. Hopefully, I can use some of that recovered time to solve that problem. But as of right now, I don't see it happening for the next few months.
Great. I don't see any other questions on the channel. Anyone from here? Okay. So thank you everyone for watching. We're available on the regular channels. We'll put in the links later on the comments of this video. And see you next time.
See you later, guys, in about 5 months.